Hello, everyone. Another weekend is upon us, and with it, some more great, or at least nice poetry. Today's program is called Mix and Match for reasons that won't necessarily be obvious in the short run. We'll have poems by Robert Frost and a countervailing poem on the same subject by Billy Collins. That should be interesting. We'll have a poem making fun of the experts and academics who think they decide what is good or not. Then we'll go off on the bunny trail with a poem by Ruth from her three-part In the Backyard series. Finally, we'll finish with what you can call a Sunday poem. I wrote this one called Holy Family, or an errant view of how it may have been. But let's start with Robert Frost. And here, if I can find it, yes, here it is. Here's his poem called The Road Not Taken. Now, I'm sure many of you have already read this poem, or maybe heard it read, but it won't hurt us to do it again because it's a great poem. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other, as just as fair and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves. No step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere, ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Well, that's one of Frost's many thoughtful poems, and unlike many of his other poems, which are rather lengthy, this one is compact. And for a program like this, that's perfect, isn't it? So where do we go from here? Well, let's segue into a poem by Billy Collins, and it's on the same theme. And it won't take you long to figure out that Billy Collins has read Robert Frost's poem. Because his poem is called The Yellow Wood. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Then those two roads diverged again, and kept diverging the way branches diverge into more branches to form a tree, which you fall out of one day and die. And it's troubling to think of life that way. In a series of binary choices, each one leaving behind a road forsaken. No, you can't go down two at a time and be both tailor and candlestick maker, but you're free to dream of the other. Take this poet. Elbows on the sill, imagining my life as a baker or even a tinker. That is, a person who goes from place to place, though I've grown weary of traveling, mending metal utensils on his way, as if the people who compiled this dictionary had the foggiest idea what tinkering actually demanded, what solitude and hardship such a life must entail. And that's it, the yellow wood. So, what happened here? Well, Billy Collins read Robert Frost's poem about two roads diverging, and he took the first line of Frost's poem, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and wrote his own poem about diverging pathways. I think Robert Frost wrote the best of the two poems, but Billy Collins' poem demands some thought too. And it's a different kind of thinking. But let's not denigrate either of these great poets' ways of thinking. They certainly got us interested in reading their poetry, didn't they? Now, here's a poem by Marge Piercy. Marge Piercy's a poem not as well known as the two you've just heard, but she has something, I think, useful and important to say. And this poem is titled "For the Young Who Want to," and here's the poem. Talent is what they say you have after the novel is published and favorably reviewed. Beforehand, what you have is a tedious delusion, a hobby, like knitting. Work is what you have done after the play is produced and the audience claps. Before that, friends keep asking, when are you planning to go out and get a job? Genius is what they know you had after the third volume of remarkable poems is published. Earlier, they accuse you of withdrawing, ask you why you don't have a baby, call you a bum. The reason people want MFAs, take workshops with fancy names, when all you can really learn is a few techniques, typing instructions, and somebody else's mannerisms, is that every artist lacks a license to hang on the wall, like your optician, your vet, proving you may be a clumsy sadist. Let me find the other page here. Whose fillings fall into the stew, but you're certified a dentist. The real writer is one who writes, who really writes. Talent is an invention like phlogiston after the fact of fire. Work is its own cure. You have to like it better than being loved. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that poem by Marge Piercy. Yeah, and it's a good thing. It's a good poem for would-be writers to read, because I think writing and getting anything published that you write is a real challenge and not necessarily good for one's ego. Okay, so that's for the young who want to. And as I have often said, poetry has come to be academicized. So Marge Piercy is agreeing with me that you can look for poetry almost every place and find it if you're careful in your looking. Now we read from Ruth Moses's book, Puzzled. It's a great book, well printed and with a great cover, and art by her cousin, or maybe it's her niece. You correct me, will you, Ruth? And she's got a 3-part series called In the Backyard, and part 2 of it is called 3 Bunnies. And here it is. I found the rabbit nest by accident. and fearing Mom would then abandon it, marked the nest with stakes and string, and so bestowed assurance that the nest would not get mowed. Emerging bunnies now possess my yard. I call them Clytemnestra, Pearl, and Bernard. They shred my lilies when they're in the mood. They nosh my hostas as a favorite food. They double joint a carom sideways hop and land straight up, like watching popcorn pop. There's something nursery rhyme in all of this, too anthropomorphic to dismiss, as I, the landlord, presumed force majeure, absorbed these fancies as eager voyeur and too familiar fairy godmother. Right. Ruth is doing the rabbits a favor, but on the other hand, the rabbits do what they want. I've had that same experience many times in my lawns and gardens, so I know what Ruth is talking about. Finally, I thought I would read one of my poems in this program. It's to be recorded on Sunday, so you might see this as a good Sunday poem. It's called Holy Family, an errant view of how it may have been. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. When Joseph came to me after our wedding, a hairy, exciting man, but gentle as an angel, I remembered a dream I had had. So odd it was that I would bear a son, so it was no surprise when it was with me as it is with women. I told Joseph he would have a son. Blessed art thou among women. And here my baby is again wanting to suckle. He feeds and grows, so warm, intensely warm and lively. In Bethlehem we paid our taxes, and the child was born in a smelly stable. Unlikely that he survived. Miracles happen, and he is healthier than most in Nazareth, where death is a frequent visitor. Oh God, I hate the funerals of children. And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. This boy worries me in a strange way. He plays and laughs. Yes, but he is a dreamer. Joseph sets him to work in the shop, and he builds at a young age a stool with 3 legs from scraps, and then, oddly, he carries it to the temple, where he sits and listens to the priests, and comes home to recite the prophets. Holy Mary, Mother of God, be with us now. My boy is now a man. How can this be? He learned to read at the temple, but also argued with the priests and scribes. Now he is teaching his neighbors, who cannot always abide this self-made rabbi. Another son is going to be the carpenter, and Jesus, I can only say, he is the greatest love and fear I have to bear. And in the hour of our death, they came to fetch me, our friends in Jerusalem, and it was what I knew would happen, all politics, the Romans and the Sanhedrin in league to stop the itinerant preacher. Jesus, the truth they thought would lead to rebellion. He could have saved himself. Why didn't he? He said he had to die to save us. He, the one. And now I have at his bequest another son. You'll recognize that the The frame for this poem is the Catholic and sometimes the High Church Anglican Catholic. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. If you're a Catholic or a High Church Episcopalian, you have heard that many times. So I use the Hail Mary prayer as a framework on which to build that poem. I hope you liked it. So now I hope the meaning of my title, Mix and Match, is more clear. I'll see you next week. I hope you join me then for more poetry. Bye now.